call to order the council meeting of June 12, 2017. Please call the roll.
Rich Bardock. Peg Conway. Here. Ed Hattenbach. Here. Alita Kamine. Here. Tom Muthing.
Here.
Ray Warren.
Here.
Natalie Wolf. Here. Scott Lermer.
Here.
Kevin Frank.
Here.
Sergeant Smith Gosling. Here. Rick Peck.
And if everyone could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is our minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting. There were some editorial changes which were circulated to all council members across this afternoon. Are there any further changes, additions, or deletions to those minutes? If not, we can consider the minutes approved. We'll now move on to the finance report for April.
Included in your packet is the UAN report, and I'll give a summary of the revenues and expenses for the month of April. Earnings tax collections for April totaled $687,000. This is down about 18% from our April of 2016's collection of $843,000. The total amount received for earnings tax through the end of April is $1.1 million. That's about a 30% collection of our estimate so far. The estimate for this year is $3 million. The village did receive an allowance or an advancement from the county, so we received our first half real estate in the amount of $87,000. The village also received $3,800 from the local government fund, so that brought our total revenues for the month to $823,000. On the expense side, the expenses for the month totaled $482,000. This represents about $1.7 million in total that we've spent so far this year, which is about 37% of our $4.6 million budget. We ended the month of April with an unencumbered general fund balance of just a little over $5 million. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for the manager? If not, we'll now move on to committee reports, and the first committee report will be from the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item which I have is to present a resolution to approve the tax budget for 2018. Purpose of having a tax budget is required by the Hamilton County and the state of Ohio. Accordingly, I propose to resolve that the tax budget be approved. Approve resolution number 2017-18. Approve the budget of estimated available funds and estimated required expenditures for the general and non-general funds for the calendar year 2018. And authorizing the village manager to submit the tentative budget to the county auditor with recommendations for continuation of the present tax levy.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 2017-18, which would approve the tax budget for the year 2018. I think it is worth pointing out this again, and we point this out every year during this point in the process, and it's mainly for residents that may be watching a council meeting or for the residents who are here this evening. This is really a step in the process that is, it's a bit of a formality. It's something the county requires. It is not part of the village's diligent budget process, which really starts in September, October, and November. The way we come up with the tax budget is we pretty much just submit, other than something we know is changing, we will just submit the 2017 budget becomes our tax budget for 2018. So it is very much formal. Are there any questions for the chair of the Finance Committee? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we approve. Right. Okay. So as part of the process, we are required to have a public hearing to consider this tax budget. So I will hereby open the public hearing. The public hearing is opening up at 6:36. Is there any member of the public who would like to make a comment with respect to the 2018 tax budget? Seeing that there is no one that wants to make a comment, I hereby close the public hearing. It is, please note the time is 6:37. The public hearing is closed. Now I move on to the resolution. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 2017-18, which would approve the tax budget for 2018. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be noted that the resolution passes unanimously.
That concludes my report.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Land Development Committee, and as the chair of the Land Development Committee, I will introduce this item. Before you tonight is a letter of understanding which we propose to enter into between Amberley Village and the Jewish Community Center. As the council knows, this is something we've been working on for about the last 15 months to look at whether it makes sense for the village and the Jewish Community Center to do something down at Amberley Green. We have been working together as a team, really looking at the options. The Jewish Community Center has done a great job identifying kind of what their likely plan would be, and that has been presented to the Land Development Committee. I think that was probably 9 months ago, and that was a plan that everyone was very excited about, and I reported on that at a council meeting. We're now really at the next stage. In this intervening period, the village has confirmed that the former clubhouse is in good condition, good enough condition to warrant inclusion in the Jewish Community Center's plan to possibly make modifications to the clubhouse and open that up as a event center / conference center. But that is, during this next phase, that is something that will be looked at as to whether it makes sense to do that. During this next phase, what would be involved is there would be a lot of work done on design and engineering, and the lead on that will be the Jewish Community Center. There will be work done on the economic case for each party, and each party will be looking at that. The key item for that during this is from the Jewish Community Center standpoint, is making sure that in fact the pieces that would be involved in any expansion onto Amberley Green could operate at least break even for the Jewish Community Center. Amberley Village will be responsible to look at any impact for traffic as a result of anything that we do. We will also be looking at, as council knows, this property is currently zoned Residence A, which we would need to do a rezoning on the property, and the village will be looking at the appropriate process to do that. And also the village will be looking at the balance of the property as well as, specifically the placement of things on the property. We plan on hiring a land planner to help with that work. The village manager is currently working with a resident, Mr. Frank Davis, who he's a retired economic director or development director for the city of Montgomery, and a great resource to the village to identify who the right party for the village to work on that. And also the Jewish Community Center will be looking at funding for the project. This is something that will take, at least, this next phase, we think will take somewhere between 6 and 9 months. We will have report backs to the committee as well as council during that. We currently expect that probably there will be a meeting with the Land Development Committee probably in late September to look at a status report. We also plan on getting public input during this, and it's something that we're very keen to do. That probably will be done done in October or something like that. So I hereby move that we adopt Resolution 2017-19, which would authorize the village manager to enter into this memorandum of understanding with the Jewish Community Center. We do have representatives from the Jewish Community Center here this evening. The village manager and I did attend the board meeting of the Jewish Community Center, where the board also authorized going forward with this memorandum of understanding. During this interim period, the key points of contact from the village will be the village manager, and from the Jewish Community Center will be their chief executive, Mark Fisher. So as I say, I hereby move that we approve Resolution 2017-9.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-19, authorizing the memorandum of understanding between the village and Jewish Community Center. Are there any questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-19. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Be it noted that the resolution passes unanimously. And I very much thank the leadership team of the Jewish Community Center and look forward to continuing to work with you. I think it's been a great working relationship, and I think hopefully it bodes very well for the future.
Thank you very much.
We'll now move on to the Police and Fire Committee.
Okay. The police and fire committee met on June 5th to consider several items that we are bringing forward tonight. The first concerns the purchase of a fire hydrant paint removal system, known by its product name of Plug Hub. It is a device that has a series of wire brushes rotating at various angles that attaches to a backhoe or bobcat, and it can prepare a fire hydrant for painting in about 2 minutes. Otherwise, the process of preparing a hydrant involves brushing, scraping, or sandblasting, which takes about 45 to 60 minutes per hydrant, and is a process prone to hand, eye, and back injury. The committee previously saw a video demonstration of this product at our April meeting, and the staff had also seen a live demonstration at a conference, and everyone was very enthusiastic about it. It is manufactured in Lexington, Ohio. The cost is $9,800, which has been budgeted. Staff actually delayed the purchase for a period of time in hopes of obtaining a partner, another municipality, to share in the cost. And recently, the Village of Marymount agreed to do so. So Amberley will make the purchase, and then Marymount will reimburse us for half. So that is a nice savings. It is expected to be delivered in time to paint the hydrants this summer. So I move that council adopt Resolution 2017-20, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract to purchase a fire hydrant paint removal system. So moved.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-19, or -20, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract to purchase the plug hub. Is there any discussion? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-20. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Be it noted that the resolution passes unanimously.
Okay, next we have 2 resolutions concerning the purchase of a police cruiser. Everyone should recall that the department employs a system of rotation for vehicles so that the newest vehicles are being used out on the road and older ones are put to a less intense use, such as driving to court or for special details. The vehicle to be replaced is from 2014 and is close to 100,000 miles, the point at which maintenance costs tend to increase sharply. And again, recall that police cruisers wear very differently than our own cars due to constant use and frequent idling. So the 100,000 miles is a different benchmark. The proposal is to purchase a 2017 Ford Utility Interceptor at a cost of $29,320 through the state bid process. So I move that council adopt Resolution 2017-21, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract to purchase 1 new police cruiser under the state of Ohio contract. So moved.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-21, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract to purchase a new police cruiser under the state of Ohio's contract. Is there any questions or discussion?
I have a question. Is the 100,000 mile warranty, which is for 5 years, is that a prorated warranty, but the positive use of that for 3 years?
I have no idea about warranties. One of our experts here in the room.
The vehicle probably actually go for over that.
No, we're talking about the new.
All of it.
All of the new.
I mean, when you say prorated,
I mean, is there, if it's 90,000 miles, two or 4 years, something that will go over the prorate, or is it 100,000 miles?
the way most of the warranties work, it's either 100,000 miles or 5 years.
Soon,
Whichever goes first.
Right.
Question, on the longevity of these vehicles, has it improved over the years, or is it, is this something that's cut and dry that you look to change at 100,000?
I think it's pretty typical that we are replacing them about every 2 to 3 years with the amount of miles that they accumulate, and then those miles are equivalent to a much higher mileage vehicle. I don't think we're out of that pattern, so every couple of years we are replacing cruisers. I think the one nice thing we've done is it's standardized now so that we can expect to replace about 2 a year. This year we replaced a detective's vehicle, which is unusual. We don't do that very often, but we did that in addition to this particular cruiser here.
Well, and the other thing I'd point out is I think you've done a good job identifying other uses for higher mileage vehicles, be it a detective car or, the fact that, the one is now the K-9 car and things like that. So cars that, where there are uses that can use higher mileage cars, you've done a good job identifying ways of doing it. Any other discussion? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-21, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract for police cruiser. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Be it noted that the resolution passes unanimously.
Okay, and then the next item concerns the cost to outfit the new vehicle as a police cruiser, to install lights, siren, antennas, radars, decals, and other equipment. Also on this purchase, a new video camera system will be installed. This is an additional purchase so that all the marked cruisers have this up-to-date equipment, which records automatically when the cruiser is running and will integrate with our existing system, so it will upload automatically to the village server when the car returns to the station. The estimated cost for this outfitting of the cruiser conversion is $17,000, and that typically, as has been typical practice, Camp Safety in Blue Ash will perform the work. The vehicle is to be delivered directly there, and its delivery is expected in less than 4 months. So I move that council adopt, I also want to note that all these items were budgeted, including the camera. I move that council adopt Resolution 2017-22, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract to purchase equipment for a police cruiser at a cost of $17,000. So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-22, authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract for purchase of equipment for a police cruiser. Is there any discussion? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-22. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Be it noted that the resolution passes unanimously.
And that concludes my report.
Okay, we'll now move on to a report from the law committee.
Ordinance 2017-08 amends Chapter 150 to ensure continued enforcement of the building codes. The purpose is to amend the village code from a previous amendment. In April, Amberley Village Council approved Ordinance 2017-06. Can you hear me? In April, is that better? Amberley Village Council approved ordinance 2017-06, updating the certificate for residential building services to the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners Building Department Services. In preparing the legislation to request a certification of the residential building code, the village cleaned up the code as it relates to the building code to ensure references were correct and up to date. However, after submitting the ordinance to the building department, they indicated our revisions eliminated some provisions which the village needs. The items needed were reinstated into the ordinance and presented to the law committee, which met on May 17 and recommended approval of the ordinance. So I move that we waive 3 readings of ordinance 2017-08. So this ordinance is completely up to date with the building code requirements.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the 3 readings with respect to ordinance 2017-08, which would allow us to get our code into accordance with what we need quicker. So, is there any discussion with respect to waiving the 3 readings? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we waive the 3 readings with respect to ordinance 2017-08. Please call the roll.
Rich Barda.
Yes.
Peg Conway.
Yes.
Ed Hattenbach.
Yes.
Alita Kamine.
Yes.
Tom Muething.
Yes.
Ray Warren.
Yes.
Natalie Wolf.
Yes.
I would move to approve ordinance number 2017-08.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 2017-08. Is there any discussion? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2017-08. Please call the roll.
Rich Barda.
Yes.
Peg Conway.
Yes.
Ed Hattenbach.
Yes.
Alita Kamine.
Yes.
Tom Muething.
Yes.
Ray Warren.
Yes.
Natalie Wolf.
Yes.
I also move to declare an emergency since the village wants the building code enforced and administered immediately. I don't know if we need magical language in addition to that, no. Okay.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2017-08 as an emergency measure, which would allow the measure to go into immediate effect. Is there any discussion with respect to that? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2017-08 as an emergency measure. Please call the roll.
Rich Barda.
Yes.
Peg Conway.
Yes.
Ed Hattenbach.
Yes.
Alita Kamine.
Yes.
Tom Muething.
Yes.
Ray Warren.
Yes.
Natalie Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, we'll now move on to a report from the Streets, Public Utilities, and Sewers Committee.
Thank you. The Streets, Public Utilities, and Sewer Committee met on May 30th. 3 topics. The first topic relates to the resolution before you. The village's energy consultant, Don Marshall of Eagle Energy, provided us an update of our electric aggregation program. As you know, the village is part of a consortium with 7 other municipalities to provide better rates than Duke's price to compare. The village is now in the 3rd year of a 3-year contract with IGS. The contract is set to expire in October 2017. Our current rate is 5.76 cents per kilowatt hour. While Mr. Marshall thought that rates would decline about 3 to 4%, his review of the energy supply landscape showed basically a marginal reduction of 1%, if not no change. IGS offered a contract proposal that we call Blend and Extend that would extend our current contract through May 2020 at an expected rate of 5.34 cents per kilowatt hour, or about 7% less than our current rate. Obviously, final pricing will depend on when the contract is signed. And this is less than the current Duke price to compare rate of 6.15 cents per kilowatt hour. Mr. Marshall suggested that going out to formally solicit rates via an RFP, or request for proposal, would likely not provide a better rate. The other local governments concurred to forego the RFP. He recommended that we approve the Blend and Extend offer and extend our August 2014 master service agreement. A condition was set that the rate would not exceed our current rate of 5.76 cents, although we anticipate it will be less than that. So I move that we approve Resolution 2017-23, authorizing the village manager to enter an agreement with Interstate Gas Supply to amend and extend the master service agreement for electric aggregation service dated August 14th, 2014.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-23, which would authorize the village manager to enter into an agreement with IGS which would amend and extend our current master service agreement. Is there any discussion or question?
I can either make this comment now or after we vote, but this is always confusing for our residents because we are constantly bombarded with phone calls and direct mail trying to get us to switch to get a better rate. And I don't, it could be confusing, and if people just move into Amberley Village, they don't know, I don't think that if they just do nothing, then they are aggregating with us. So it might be helpful to send a postcard with the updated rates and the Duke compare rates, so that not only will they be assured that if they do nothing, they are aggregating with us, but they can also be prepared to ask the right questions if they're solicited.
So, I don't know if the village manager wants to comment on it. What I was planning to do after the vote was really address that point. But what I was planning to do is essentially read what the village manager has prepared that should address these issues. But I'll go ahead for those here and those who may be watching. Residents who are currently enrolled in the village's electric aggregation program with IGS as the village electric provider will be given a 21-day window to opt out of the program. That is, they're automatically in unless they opt out. The opt-out letter will be sent to all eligible residents, meaning anyone that is not being served by an alternate supplier that they have elected on their own. So current village-sanctioned IGS participants will receive the letter, and anyone who may have moved into the village or any other resident taking Duke service. Duke Energy will then notify the same residents to confirm their decision, giving residents 7 days to opt out. Residents who want to continue in the village aggregation program need not do anything. For residents not with the village program, they should contact IGS about becoming part of the aggregation program. Obviously, the timing of that might be critical because if you opt out if someone is in some alternate program and they opt out early, it's possible there could be a penalty. So the closer you get to the termination of that plan, the less likely there will be a penalty. Due to the expiring contract, residents may begin to receive a significant amount of calls from various electric suppliers advertising for very low rates. Some of those rates may be lower than the current rate that I quoted of 5.76 cents. However, such rates usually have a very limited time frame and can include penalties if the resident wishes to change to the village contract at a later date. Should residents receive a call regarding electric aggregation, they should exercise caution before making any changes. As always, if you wish to stay with the village contract, simply do not respond to the phone calls or mailers, and the village negotiated rate savings will be passed on to you. This program will not affect residents who have opted out of the village aggregation program, or those who have selected a different electric supplier. Your last point, Natalie, I believe that we will in probably our next newsletter describe the situation that will be moving forward. So, and hopefully it will be as clear as possible, so people will not be confused. But to your point, every few years we are bombarded, with calls and mailers, whatever. And I don't know, Scott, if you have any comment about resident confusion, have things improved over time, or is it still a problem?
It has improved. because I think residents put a lot of trust in the village in terms of the aggregation program. So from the office, I think we have seen a lot less calls as it relates to aggregation. The message that we will communicate through e-news and through the newsletter would be to do nothing if you're a current customer. Just do nothing. And also let them know that they're going to be getting those calls, as they have in the past, but they're going to be getting those calls, and to not engage those calls because it's not worthwhile for them if they're currently on the aggregation program. There's always going to be a little bit of confusion. That's just a given with this type of program. But I think we've made significant headway in terms of the communication that has occurred over the last couple of years.
You know, if there's one thought I have about this is that the contract that we have for gas aggregation and electric aggregation, or unfortunately, is not synchronous. So that is the contract dates are not exact. And so that probably leads to additional confusion. So instead of being bombarded every 3 years or so, we get this whatever every year, every 18 months or so.
Councilwoman Conklin?
Yeah, I was wondering, do we have any idea how many what percentage of the residents are in our program versus not?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I recall that when Don Marshall ran numbers for us this past year, the number is rather high on electric. It's not as high on gas, but it's extremely high for a community our size. So I think a lot of that goes back to the communication that we've had to the residents. Don was always impressed with the percentage of residents that were in our program.
And I think the vendors want us to be confused, the competing vendors who are contacting us. I mean, I get phone calls all the time, and they act like, they almost sound as though my powers can be turned off if I don't talk to them. I mean, it's very, I just have a standard line. No, I'm aggregated.
Councilwoman Cameron?
Yeah. I just want to mention one thing. I think the Vice Mayor brought this up in a different but related context at our last meeting, and I think the other thing that would be helpful to communicate, not necessarily in that statement, not to confuse things, but I do think our residents are very sensitive to the sustainability issues and the green energy, and it's actually something we should and could be very proud of. We were actually, the Vice Mayor and I were approached recently by somebody who said, like, Amberley should hop on board, and we said, haha, we're already on board. But we don't necessarily, so that, and I don't think we necessarily, that may be a place where I'm thinking back to the vendors. I don't necessarily think they've targeted that, but just given everything that's going on, people might be looking, as they're getting calls, like, well, are you backed up by clean energy or something like that? That might be another factor that people might, allow themselves to be asking questions about. And it might be something that whatever we decide to do, maybe through the Environmental Stewardship Committee or some other way so as not to confuse, the main issue at hand, we can pass along some messages to our residents about how that piece fits in. But maybe there's more to talk about with that too.
So with regard to green power, residents will have a green power option, which we've had in the past, and that will be priced at 0.2 cents higher than whatever rate we end up with. So in other words, if the final traditional power rate is 5.34 cents, then the green power rate will be 5.54 cents. And that should probably go out in our newsletter as well.
The mechanism for opting into that, or opting it, what's the mechanism for that? So, for example, this is an area where I remember, like, I moved to the village in the middle of a cycle, so I knew we were aggregated because I didn't ask that question, but didn't know what the mechanism is to opt for the green.
If my memory serves me correct, the last time when we did electric aggregation, if you wanted the green power option, you had to take the initiative to contact the supplier directly. That's my recollection.
That's my understanding. That's my understanding.
Okay, I think it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-23. Is there any further comments, questions? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2017-23, which authorizes the village manager to enter into an agreement with IGS, which would amend our existing master service agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be it noted that the resolution passes unanimously.
Just a couple other items regarding our last committee meeting. As all of us, and probably all residents, have commiserated, traffic along Ridge Road near Ronald Reagan Highway is particularly bad during the morning and evening commutes. Some of the problem is contributed by the traffic signals at Ridge and Ronald Reagan Highway. With the recommendation of TEC Engineering and the village's CT Engineering consultants back in October 2016, our village manager, Mr. Larmer, secured ODOT to run and finance a traffic light retiming study. The study is now complete, and Mr. Larmer has reported, I'm going to speak for you, that ODOT has approved a left turn arrow light for Ronald Reagan westbound traffic. While the city of Reading owns the traffic light, the benefit is essentially Amberley's. So the village will pay for this much-needed improvement, and hopefully it'll be noticeable. Presumably it will be noticeable. The last item I'd just like to share is that at the committee's December 2016 meeting, a resident brought to the committee's attention that traffic was presenting a hazard to pedestrians crossing the street at the Fair Oaks and Section Road intersection. This is currently a three-way stop intersection. Mr. Larmer has initiated a traffic study, and so we'll learn more about the outcome of that in the next few months. And that is our committee report.
All right, thank you. We'll now move on to the Compensation and Benefits Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Compensation and Benefits Committee met on June 5th for our annual health and dental renewal discussion. So just some recollections from, just to remind everybody, we're part of the local government benefit pool that Haran manages for us, and so our Haran rep came to our meeting to share with us the information about what's been negotiated for our employees for this year. And as a reminder, we have a 85% contribution. Employees contribute 15%. This year, unlike last year, the plans actually are remaining exactly the same. So the renewal, we can actually see it's exactly the same. No additional changes to the plans like we had last year. So on the healthcare side, the rate that has been proposed for this year or negotiated by Haran for the pool is a 3% increase. And while essentially it was about 3.6% for the same thing last year, increase. So this increase, we had been warned to expect very large increases, 7%, 10%. The market is well above this. So we think this is actually generally they were assuring us that this is a pretty good deal. And the other good news is on the dental side, they were able to negotiate a flat rate, so no increases at all on the dental side. This renews August 1st, so we'll need to approve this for the employees today. The total cost, just the quick math on the potential, if everything stays the same, if everybody stays on the plans as current, the cost to the village, the increased cost of the village will only be about $9,000 for this. So it's a pretty nominal increase, and I think better than we anticipated it could have been. So we are asking today to approve Resolution 2017-24, renewing the health and dental care for our employees at a 3% rate on the healthcare side and flat on the dental side.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we authorize resolution or approve resolution 2017-24, which provides for the village's employees' health insurance plan and the dental plan. Is there any discussion?
Just one question. Comparing last year to the current year, when you talk about a 3% increase, does that take into account our increasing staff? That is, as the village's expenses have gone up, but then our staff has also increased, right?
Well,
police officer.
Well, the staff only increased this year, so that would not be reflected here. That officer was added in the month of May.
The 3%,
Okay,
3% increase is a 3% increase in rates.
Okay,
So the rate goes up by 3%. So to the extent you had more employees, your cost would go up a little bit more than 3%.
right. I'm just looking at comparison, $360,000, $370,000, which is about 3%. Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 2017-24. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be noted that the resolution passes unanimous.
And we also talked in this meeting about the renewal of our life insurance benefit. That is not required for council to approve. The rate is increasing by some fraction of pennies in a very small amount, so it's a very nominal increase. Also, pretty stable and being the market, and that's the village's cost primarily. But it's barely worth noting. It's such a small increase, and we do not have to vote on that. But we did discuss that in that meeting as well, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. We will now move on to the health, education, and welfare.
Thanks, Mayor. As everyone recalls, last month, Council passed Resolution 2017-17, which is the resolution committing Amberley Village to non-discrimination and recognizing the benefits of diversity. And so following the passage of that resolution, the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee met to review the village's personnel policy. And I am happy to report that the personnel policy has now been updated so to ensure that, as well, Amberley Village is an equal opportunity employer, yes, of course, but Amberley now does not discriminate in employment or the provision of services on the basis of creed, political affiliation, race, color, religion, national or ethnic origin, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender, and gender expression, gender identity, including a transgender identity, genetics, military status, or status as a disabled military Vietnam-era veteran. So I think that's really great, and we are moving forward on this issue. That concludes my report.
Are there any questions or comments? If not, that concludes our committee reports. We will now move on to the manager's report.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to mention 3 items tonight. Council has most likely seen the progress that's being made on the Mercy Health Medical Office building that is being built on property that the village owned. The village leased that land to Ken Sherman, and he then in turn subleased that to Mercy Health, and construction is progressing quite well. We've had a couple of hiccups on that particular project. Staff was able to step in and try to get them resolved. It may require some council action in the future, but we are trying to assist the development to keep it moving forward, because there is a planned opening of January 1st for the Mercy Health Center. So we're quite pleased with the progress that is being made on that project. The street rehabilitation program will begin. Council has already approved that. You approved a contract with J.K. Muir a few months ago. The contractor, we've had a pre-construction meeting, and he has notified us that the start date for the contract will be about July 5th. Now, whenever a contractor gives you a date, it's always weather dependent. So, and it's also dependent on a lot of other factors, but we should expect some work to begin in July on the street program, which encompasses all of the streets in the Aracoma neighborhood. So all of those streets are being resurfaced this year, so that'll complete that entire neighborhood. I would also just mention that J.K. Muir was also awarded a contract last month for the paving of the parking lot at the municipal garage, and that work has been completed already. So they have been, they've been very forthright and telling us in terms of where they're going to be and when they're going to be there. And the last item I did mention in the council, in the manager's report about the tennis courts at the Amberley Green, and reported that Mount Notre Dame is planning on rehabbing the courts at the Amberley Green, and that's the reason they did not have nets up. Mount Notre Dame did notify us that the company that they had contracted with, that all fell through, And so they went ahead and put 3 nets up so that our residents could take advantage of the courts up at Amberley Green. We know that we have residents that would prefer to play there as opposed to the courts here. So we'll get that word out in the upcoming e-news that residents can now go back up to Amberley Green tennis courts and utilize them. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for me? Just one thing, is Mount Notre Dame aware of our discussions with the Jewish Community Center?
I have mentioned it, but they'll know more now that we've adopted this agreement, yes.
Okay, we'll now move on to the chief's report.
Sunday, June 25th, 9 a.m. to noon, we're co-hosting the Kids Bike Safety Fair. It's an annual event hosted by us, Police Department, and the Jewish Community Center. This year's event's going to be at the Jewish Community Center. Put on for kids 12 and under to learn how to safely ride their bike. They can also get fitted for a helmet by Children's Hospital. They receive a free bike tune-up from Fairfield Bicycle, and it's open to everyone.
Any questions for the sergeant? All right, thank you. I will now move on.
Do you need volunteers for that, or are you good with the J? I do have a T-shirt from my past volunteer gig on that.
They have volunteers, but they can always use more, I think.
Okay, we'll now move on to the mayor's report, and, consistent with what the manager does, I have 3 items. First, the Environmental Stewardship Committee. I think this question came up last time. The one-stop drop, we did get final totals. We did collect 20.4 tons during the event. That was 12.3 tons less than last year. We had 544 cars go through, which was 100 fewer than last year. But the circulation plan that the police came up with was very successful. And I think the feeling is that this is an event that the residents very much appreciate. As far as the lower tonnage, I think it was just reflective of, everyone thinks that it's primarily reflective on the electronic side. Some of the heavier things like the very large TV screens have now been recycled, and so we might see less tonnage, but it's, again, a very valuable service, especially the safe paper shredding and things like that. So the plan is to continue that event, and in fact, Kathy Kramer and Pete Duffy, who chaired it in this past year and did a great job, have agreed to chair it again. Next item, on this Thursday, the next step in the process for the Duke gas pipeline will take place. This is a public hearing which will take place at the Blue Ash UC campus. This is an opportunity for residents to appear before the members of the Ohio Public Siting Board. The members of that board will be here in the city to hear testimony. And this, again, what has occurred since our last meeting is that the staff of the Ohio Public Siting Board has come out with their report, and their report has recommended the green route, which is the route which goes along the edge of Amberley Village. As you will recall, the route which was the suggested route by Duke in their original filing was the orange route, which went through the middle of Kenwood and Sycamore Township and Madeira and so forth. The staff of the OPSB has recommended the green route. Again, this is all we're in the midst of this process. There's nothing that says it will definitely be the orange, green, or any route. So it's very important that residents continue to be involved. I am intending, as both an individual as well as the mayor, to submit at a minimum written testimony. I do not want to take up other people's time, so I will testify orally in summary of what I will put in writing, if time allots, but otherwise I will at a minimum submit written testimony. And one of the main things I intend to put in this testimony is a concern, which I think all council members probably saw, that I don't think Duke has been forthcoming from day one on this issue, and I am very concerned that the OPSB staff did not do a very thorough job in really looking at the need for this pipeline. I thought their report very much reflected the fact that, in summary of what I would say they said on the 3 pages of that need section of the report, is they basically said, Duke said there's a need, therefore there is a need. And I think they can do a much more thorough job on that. And so that will be in my testimony. And then also something that came up in the last week and a half, there was a meeting of the elected officials in municipalities along the route to get an update from the legal side of where we are in the process. At that meeting, Commissioner Fortune asked communities whether they would be willing to issue a letter to Duke highlighting or recommending to Duke that during this intervening process that they not contact residents or send landmen out or surveyors out to residents, because it just is a very confusing point in the process, and there's no need to be doing this during this intervening period. I would, as long as my fellow council members agree, I would intend to issue such a letter to Duke. I told Commissioner Fortune that we would do that. So in our case, the good news is we don't have residents that would be having visits. We have businesses that will be subject to visits. But I still think it's very important that we highlight to Duke that they should not be doing this during this period. So as long as you're okay with that. And then, I will turn it over, before I go on to my third item, I will turn it over to our solicitor to see if he has any further comments with respect to the process.
Now, you covered a lot of the stuff that's going on. It was either today or tomorrow, the city of Cincinnati and the county are filing a motion to continue the hearing date. I saw a draft of it today, but I don't think it was filed yet. So the hearing date on Thursday is still happening, so that's not being changed. But they call it an adjudicatory hearing on July 12th, that's up in Columbus. The motion would continue that date. They asked for October 2nd, I think it was. We just got the OPSB staff report, and there are about 8 to 10 different governmental jurisdictions that have sent discovery requests to Duke. We're still just now getting those discovery requests back, and us, and especially the city and county staff and engineers, are going through all the answers and trying, there's a lot of work to be done, just like a court case. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of information to go through. The city and county are still contemplating hiring experts and other outside engineers to help provide testimony and cross-examine Duke's experts and do some depositions and things, meaning there's a lot of work to do, and we can't get it done, collectively we can't get it done before July 12th. So the motion was filed to ask for more time. I've been expecting that for several months, and they're just doing it by tomorrow, I think. So I do not expect the July 12th hearing to stick, although apparently Duke is opposing that. We'll kind of see what happens. They've asked for an answer within a week, so hopefully they'll have news on what happens. But this does not affect this Thursday's hearing. That is still going on. I think it's from 3 to 8 o'clock. That's not being changed at all, so that will still happen.
Could you comment on Duke's objection to our discovery requests regarding the A line and how we might respond to that, or at what point we might respond to that?
Yeah, so the village asked for discovery, which is, just information and documents from Duke about the A line. For those of you who don't know too much about the A line, it's an existing gas pipeline that was installed over time in the 1940s and 50s and maybe the 60s too. It kind of cuts across the village diagonally, and part of Duke's application for this new pipeline references the A line as having to be improved or repaired, replaced sometime over the next couple of years. So we asked Duke for information about that A line, and they basically said pound salt. Pound salt, go pound salt.
What?
Pound salt.
Pounds.
It's a polite way of saying go jump, go jump in a lake.
I thought there was, is it typical legal language? I mean, obviously, I'm not a lawyer. What they responded, like, the request is blah, 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 is that standard legal style? I thought it was incredibly condescending and,
It's normal, yeah. In fact, it's kind of expected. Duke knows it's going to be kind of a pain and take some time and effort to challenge that. So our next step would be to go write a letter to Duke and say, look, Duke, under the laws, the discovery rules, you're supposed to, provide us documents if it's relevant to what you're getting or what you're asking the state for. And so I'm going to write a letter back to Duke and explain you owe us this information because it is relevant to what you're trying to do. It's relevant to the need. The A line has a capacity of providing gas to the community that will be affected by this new pipeline. It's all part of the same system. So if they still say, jump in a lake, go jump in a lake, our next step would be to file a motion with the OPSB. They're going to file an opposition motion, then we probably go up to Columbus and have a hearing, and hopefully we don't have to go to that length because it gets a little time consuming and lengthy, or expensive, excuse me. Hopefully letter writing and contacting Duke and working with them will get us some more information about the A line that the village and the residents want. We really don't know what's going to happen with the A line. Duke has been very keeping their cards close to their vest as far as what their plans are for the A line. The only thing they've really said is we plan to replace or upgrade the A line probably in 2 to 3 years as this proposed pipeline is being built or is built, then they'll look more at the A line. But we're trying to get more information about it now. Does that answer your question, or is there more you're looking for? Duke's response is very typical. It's typical, it's normal. It is condescending, but it's normal.
act condescending to them.
Right.
Okay, are there any other questions related to Duke before I go on to my last item? And my last item is, I've been thinking about this over the past few months as we have things going on with Amberley Green, and, I know in our process of the evaluation of the village manager, we talked about recreation options and so forth. So I would like council members to think over the next couple months whether it would make sense to possibly reconvening with different membership, and we would have to look at membership, whether it makes sense to, look at convening, some kind of long-range planning committee or something to look at that. To me, one of the first steps, and this is, if people have talked to me about it, and again, we are all, with the exception of Councilwoman Kamine, getting up in our age, and as we think about, what the village is going to be thought of in 15 to 20 years, more of a vision, some visionary work. What do we want the village to be known for? Through the vice mayor, we've tried to become a more inclusive community and so forth. But we are, if you go back, if you ask anybody around the city what the village is known for, is clearly the beautiful acreage and great police services and so forth. But as we think about attracting younger residents and so forth, maybe we need to think as far as a broader visionary statement, and I just think this is maybe something we need to think about doing. So again, put it in the back of your minds and let's think about it and have further discussions as to how we might do this and move it forward. That concludes my mayor's report. Okay, we'll now move on to new business. Okay. I assume there were no questions on my mayor's report. Okay. New business. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And first of all, thanks, Mayor, for your leadership on the pipeline issue. I mean, I think you've really run with it, and we all appreciate that. I wanted to take this minute to publicly thank the mayor for attending at my invitation the Allies for Equality event that was downtown on June 1st, which was sponsored by Ohio Equality. And the mission of Equality Ohio, the mission of Equality Ohio is to assist local governments in crafting non-discrimination laws for their community. And so when they heard that we were looking into the same thing, we were invited to attend the Allies for Equality event, and I invited the mayor, and it was very nice event. So thank you for that. And then the other thing I wanted to do was to thank our public safety department. Last week, Addith Israel congregation hosted the Interfaith Hospitality Network, which is when communities of faith communities host homeless families for a week in their facility, in their synagogue, as it were, here at Addith Israel. And I'm the new chairperson at Addith. And we had a lot of little kids, and at the very last minute, I thought it would be fun for them to have the fire truck or the canine, and I mean, this is literally last minute. I called up the chief. I said, "Can we have Creed come?" And Creed came, and the families all loved Creed. And then the very next day, I mean, totally last minute, I said, "Can the fire truck be up here in a half an hour?" And they came up, and it was really wonderful. Really wonderful. The kids loved it. So thank you.
Anything else? If not, consider the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.